welcome to That's Curious. It is a fun podcast with Shay and Lloyd. We are here because we are some curious cats and we have questions. So for this episode, we have Taurin McBride. She is a super fun girl who is very well known for her agriculture and water information and insights. And so it has been an honor to have her here. She goes by the Water Mama if you are looking for her on her socials. And again, her name is Taurin McBride, and we can't wait to show you this episode. Lloyd, what did you think about all her fun information and how deep of the realms of the water world that we got to go into?
Yeah, man. Learned a lot from Taurin. This is, we've dealt with, worked with her twice in the past. And every time just learn more and more about water quality. This is a great episode to learn about what filters work, why they work, how they work. Just how many, different options on water where you can get pure, clean water. And the most fascinating thing, man, that I got from it is just how much water absorbs into your body when you take a shower and how many pollutants can be in a non-filtered shower.
Right. It was absolutely crazy. So if you want to stick around and dive deeper into the wild world of water, come hang out with us in the Water Mama, and we will see you soon.
Thank you for joining us again, Taurin. We have some questions, and I'm going to start real simple just to get us going. You're big into water and water quality. The question is real simple. Why is water crucial for our health, and why is it so important that clean water is accessible?
Right. Sounds like a simple question, but it's so we could start with why water is important for our health. I feel like it's a very common saying. Most people know, like, we're 76% water, or something like that, right? I feel like that's a common thing in people's head that we learn in grade school. But when it comes down to it, on like a cellular level, there's water in our cells, in our mitochondria, and it's what powers our cells. So if you look at everything on a cellular level, from your brain, your lungs, your heart, organs, your skin, we're about 96% water. And that water that's in our cells it has energy. And that's how our body is powered, is through the mitochondria and the water that it's given. If you have a dry cell, it's going to die, and those cells are going to be dying. And that's kind of can happen when there's disease and whatnot. Plainly put, we're mostly water. And so we need lots of water to be hydrated. And that raises the question really of how much water do we need to drink to be hydrated? What water is safe to hydrate? Or what water is safe to drink? What is the best hydrating waters? Just the overall process of all of our cells in our body and our organs, everything that happens to respiration, rely on all of the cells in our body that need water to survive. So when something oxidizes, it dries up. And we want to fuel those cells with clean and potentially negatively charged water. That's the optimal condition right there for a cell's health, which in turn makes you healthy. What was the other part of that question? You asked about human.
No, I'm just saying, like, what, just some of the important to have clean water, and if some of the immediate effects that if you're consuming contaminated water, what some of the immediate effects people might experience, whereas opposed or even long-term effects that, if you're not taking clean water seriously, what are some of the risks that might be associated with that?
So there is, I would say most people are probably gonna have like the long-term situation where they don't see an issue with drinking tap water, and they're drinking their tap water from their home. They're making their baby bottles with it. They don't see an issue with it. It could be that slow drip into the bucket that eventually fills the bucket. But then there's other people, often with like predispositions, maybe gut issues, some type of sensitivity, that they drink or shower in this water and they immediately break out, or they get sick, they vomit. Personally, my niece and nephew's mother, she tried to drink the tap water and it made her sick for 3 days. She was vomiting and shaking. So it really just depends on our body. I think a huge misconception with water in general and like ingesting it is that tap water is safe. It's not necessarily safe to drink because the EPA sets a standard for what they say is safe for us to consume, but safe doesn't always mean healthy. And that is, again, to the people that are super sensitive. I know some folks that shower in tap water and their skin is peeling off of their body. They're having major acne, eczema, children with eczema, and they go and put a decent quality shower filter on and it's done. It heals itself. So the importance of water is very obvious for some people and not obvious for other people. It doesn't like underlie how important having clean water is for people. So the EPA, they certify what is safe to be in our water and they regulate it. So what they say is safe is not always healthy. And so you can use like different websites, or there's, what is it called? It's called the Consumer Confidence Report through your utilities, EWG tap water database, and you can look up the contaminants in the water, and it goes into detail what the EPA says is safe, what's measured in there, and then what they determine is actually like a healthy amount to consume. And it's more often than not vast lower than what the EPA allows. And so a lot of people think tap water is safe because the EPA is regulating it. It's sanitized, it's clean at the place, water facility, it's good to go. But really, something that I learned in my rabbit hole last night is that 1/4 of Americans are getting their water source from a contaminated water that violates the EPA Safe Water Drinking Act. So that's a large amount of people, 1/4 of Americans. So I think it's really, for people to be aware of it, it's either really obvious and in their face because they're hurting from it, or it's not, and it's just disregarded as like a need to know thing.
Right. Well, we talk about clean water, and we all, I would think, would want clean water. And we're just, I mean, my curiosity is like, okay, so what is making it unclean? What are like some, do you know, like some common toxins and things that are in the water that like are, you know, are making us react this way, that are making us dry out, making us dehydrated, could be causing people with sensitive skin? Like, what is it that's in the water that I mean, you may not know all of it, but some things you do know. Just what is it that is affecting us like that?
So I'm going to start with a big one that just happened. One of my business partners is out in Syracuse, New York. A lot of their infrastructure is really, really old. And they suddenly had a lead contamination. And none of this was on the news, but they just had a lead contamination that was worse than Flint, Michigan. And there was kids getting sick at school, at home with lead contamination when they were tested. So there is like, what we need to know is like being aware of our systems for water are old. So the contamination that can take place in the infrastructure, those can be heavy metals. And that happens when water, or say they put in like a new piping or something gets in there, some type of chemical, and it reacts with some metal of a different pipe and it creates this weird thing and it's pumping in your water. So it's literally just a chemical reaction happening from the materials, either degrading or interacting with other chemicals that are then leaching into your water. So that's a huge thing with infrastructure. Super popular one, which I will say, like, I let my daughter go to the pool. We go to the splash pad, you know, chlorine once in a while, fine, right? But chlorine is a big, big, big one for kids and for people's skin. Seriously, like major contribution to eczema, dry skin, all sorts of skin issues. Chlorine actually, I mean, I can smell it when I run my water when they just treated. I'm like, oh, that's a fresh treatment. But when it's actually heated in the shower, so you take a hot shower, right? It steams up. Chlorine, when it heats and it interacts with other organic volatile compounds, which are just like, could be anything. It could be minerals, it could be metals. It turns to chloroform. So you're taking a steamy shower in chlorine that turns to chloroform. And chloroform used to be used in Western medicine, and it hasn't been used for years and years and years. I think it's about 20. I don't want to say because I'm not 100%. But they're shown that chloroform can suck vitamins out of your body, vitamin E and D. It can cause respiratory issues. It can cause organ issues. And again, that just on your skin, when you're in the shower, it likes to open up and absorb all that steam and that goodness, because that's what we're there for. We're there to like exfoliate and get clean. So really, that's a huge deal for me, and especially with my child, is that she bathes in a chlorine-free bath. Like I said, we go play at the pool. So there's infrastructure contamination, just like lead and stuff. There's common stuff everybody knows, chlorine, because we all love to go swimming in a pool. There's things like nitrate and nitrites. Those often come from agriculture runoff. Those are all pesticides. Roundup. I'm still kind of mind blown that I walk around and I see people with containers of weed killer or Roundup in their front yard. I'm like, get with it, you guys.
Yeah.
So there's nitrates. There's the microplastics, which are a big thing now. Microplastics just probably come from plastic pollution in the world, and everything that we buy that's in plastic, from the containers to our clothes to our makeup stuff to whatever, to literally everything's made by poly, whatever, oil stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So microplastics, it's inevitable. They're finding their way in. Other things would be some new emerging compounds would be like DEET, like the mosquito like repellent stuff. And then that's like a new one that the organization that I check with for certification to make sure things are getting out of the water, NSF, that's one of the emerging compounds they named was DEET, ibuprofen. There's everything from the words that you can't pronounce. A lot of it is agriculture, infrastructure, or human waste. Chlorine, lead, there's a lot.
I really didn't even think about the chloroform thing. Like, I'm going to be real honest. The most I've really ever really heard about the chloroform is when, you see the people making jokes of like, does this smell like chloroform? You know what I like that in the movies, but I had no idea. And maybe that should be more common sense potentially, but I don't think it is. Like that the chlorine in the water is like steaming and becoming chloroform. That's so crazy to me.
Yeah, and there's a fun fact I forgot to share with you. Your body absorbs 8 cups of water in 8 cups of water in the shower if you were to just as many chemicals in there as if you were to just drink 1 cup of the water. So your skin is absorbing, reverse. Your body absorbs it as if you drank 8 cups of that water in a 10-minute shower. So you just chugged 8 cups of tap water, you took a 10-minute shower, same difference. So that's a 10-minute shower of steam. You're allowing a lot of contaminants into your body. And like I said, some people don't see it, doesn't bother them, doesn't mean it's not having an effect. Some people are highly, highly sensitive, especially children.
Wow. That's insane.
Yeah, it doesn't make me want to get in the shower right away. I have that information about the chloroform for one, and we've already gone down some rabbit holes, and it's just so ironic, man, that we don't really consider like, okay, I'll put a filter on my drinking water and I'll be okay, or I'll drink it out of a bottle and I'll be okay. Meanwhile, we're taking 1-2 showers a day, washing our clothes and this, right?
Equal to 8 cups of that same contaminated water you're drinking. That's how good your skin is at, like, for a sponge for everything, all the material, all the non-physical, all that stuff. We just the shower is pretty a gnarly one. It's honestly a big seller within my business. The 2 companies that I work with are showers, and people almost always get a shower system before a drinking water system, which both are equally important, but I'm happy to just see somebody take action either way.
Yeah. I spend so much time in the shower. It's my safe space.
Taurin, you said about like agriculture, man, and I think that's like something that I know we like dipped on a little bit last time we were on. We scratched a little surface there, but like with agriculture being such a huge industry, man, and how does water quality affect not only livestock but like produce, and what actions are farmers and or the EPA taking to ensure that they are using quality water when either hydrating the animals that we use to consume or the products that the produce that we grow to consume? Is there any types of regulations, and how, in your opinion, how stringent or like how strict are these farmers following this?
Honestly, I don't know about any regulations for water. I mean, I've learned a lot about what we can put on our plants as far as fertilizers, pesticides, things like that. But when it comes to our water, I don't know. I don't know if there's regulations for it. I would hope that there is. I know that the type of water affects the way a plant grows, and this has to do with the ionized water. This isn't just clean water when I speak about this, because I have did a couple tests with the ionized clean hydrogen water, growing with plants and starting seeds with them or sprouting potatoes with them, and the growth compared to tap water, RO water, bottled water is insane. It's absolutely crazy. And so clean water is essential, and I do believe that it would have a great effect on the quality of our produce and the quality of our animals' life. When I think about that, it really makes me think the next step, which is that electrolyzed reduced water that really powers things with hydrogen and gives it that antioxidant punch. But one thing that personally I have stepped away from because of the water that plants are grown with and processed with, um, is really buying from a grocery store that has sprayers on them. I know this is crazy because it's like every store, and I'm like, ah. But knowing that my produce is sitting there soaking in the city water pumped into the grocery store, which I know what grocery stores are like, I've worked there, I won't have produce that has been soaked in nasty water, let alone I necessarily wouldn't want it that if it was grown with that water. But like I said, I don't know if there's any regulations as far as what type of water is used in agriculture and what they allow. I do know a little bit about like the processing of crops and whatnot, harvesting, cleaning them, having used specific washes and things like that, and clean water for your processing before they go off to the store, the market, or whatever. I know there's regulations for that, but as far as growing, I have no clue.
I think it's like a loaded question just because like here we are talking about clean water, and a lot of farmers are pumping livestock full of steroids and antibiotics and God only knows what else. Like, and even then, I mean, if anybody's, I'm just again hitting livestock with chickens, Tyson Company, and the way they handle things, and and I guess with like the point, or like the way I'm thinking is like if we're water, we are straight up water. What's the difference, or why is it important that when it falls from the sky and falls on our crops and our livestock drink it, as opposed to humans, we have a tendency to mess things up and involve ourselves, in using, just whatever water is available, and how that it can affect in the transfer. If I'm eating a steak from a cow that was drinking contaminated water, and I keep buying from this particular farm, or this company, 10, 20 years later, I might not realize it, but I got liver cancer, and that's because the water that was used in the cow I don't know if that's possible. I'm not a scientist or a doctor, but like I think it would somehow affect overall.
I mean, don't they feed cattle alcohol? Isn't that Wagyu or whatever? I think there's a type of cow that they literally just give alcohol.
Wagyu beef.
It makes the meat all fatty and stuff. There is, as far as like regenerative goes and the farming practices, 100% what you give your animal is going to affect like the meat or the product or whatever it is, the egg, cheese, whatever you're getting from it. 100% there is a difference. I just don't know that there's necessarily regulations. I know on a large scale, I've talked to a few farmers about my systems, and they were too large for my systems to handle their operation, but they were already implementing other things. So I know that there's farmers that are aware of having the clean water. So I'll be happy to research that later to see if there's water regulations in agriculture, because that is big. That is really big.
It's big.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that. I feel like a little kid every time. Like I go to the store and I see the produce section. I'm excited for the rain because they even had like a little thunder sound, and I'm like, it's showtime. It's rain time about the produce.
I
Now you're like, oh, like I didn't think about that at all by any means. But I usually do like to try to go to like farmers markets and stuff to like get my produce. But I won't lie and say that I'm not excited about that part at the grocery store. But it is just it's like the more you think about it, and that's why I love having this like platform, because it's like all these questions just go deeper. And so now I'm like, I was watching Bizarre Foods and they were eating, I'm going down a rabbit hole tangent, but they were eating squirrel and they were like, you can really taste like the nutty and berry from the squirrel being in the, and I'm like, if we are what we eat, like what is happening to these animals?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna reel it in.
Really neat.
Brain's exploding right now.
Yeah, and well, a lot of when I think water and agriculture, a lot of times my mind just goes to what agriculture is doing to the water.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like this cycle because it like gets cycled within our homes and our systems and to our schools, what office buildings and farms, and then it goes back in and it gets treated again. It's just like this cycle. So,
Yeah.
you know, we're getting cycled water of areas around us, and yes, it's a huge consideration when you're thinking about the whole, everything's all tied together. So all the systems, especially when it comes to our water.
Yeah. I think that leads to a really good question. If we want to take charge of our water right now, and I understand that this is going to go into a couple parts, but if we want to be able to do something for ourselves to have better water right now, what are some options that we can do? And then more specifically, I want, like, obviously I want multiple options, but accessible.
Yep.
All people options, because there are a lot of ways that if you are financially well off, you can do a lot for yourself.
Yep.
But I mean, for a lot of us out here that are currently struggling to even be able to get the groceries to make a meal, like, how do we do this?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, obviously, I work for and endorse a filtration company and ionization company, but I'm not going to lead with that. If I was in that position, they have water fill stations and whatnot, and all of this that takes is like a curious mind, and often not people don't really want to like have a curious mind or ask questions or like think about something. And like me and my mom were just getting a massage the other day, and we were outside the massage after the massage parlor, outside the massage parlor after the massage. She's like, go back in there and ask that lady her name. And I was like, no, you go back in there and ask her name. Like, I'm not going back in there. She's like, you go. And I'm like, okay, I'll just go do it. And that's what it takes is you just got to ask questions. So I would say wherever you get your water, you may get it from a filter store. You may get it through a delivery service. So, or you like a filter station is like the most common thing. That's what I did for a long, long time. To see what type of filtration they have. And it just takes a little bit of thinking. It's like, okay, just ask, like, hey, do you know what type of filter this is or whatever it's in here? Oh, it's city water. And then you can just see for yourself. I would say that, water stores are probably what most people are doing, or fill stations. I will say that what I would do is drive to a spring, which sometimes they're close by. And get spring water from somewhere in the woods, in the mountains, where there's not mining, there's not agriculture, or somewhere sometimes they have tests that are done on them to be provided. In Washington State, we have one of the most amazing springs, like 45 minutes from me. But right now they're fighting for a mine to open. So you're going to have water stores, water fill stations. Just be curious. Just be like, what type of filtration is this? You might be surprised. They might have a full NSF certified solid carbon block, like best filter ever. And you get to pay, $1.50 for 5 gallons. Great. Like, just ask.
Right.
And that's what I tell everybody I talk to. They're like, oh, I fill my water up at this water place. It's really cool. They have all these different waters. I'm like, just ask them. Like, what is this system? What does it do? I want to make sure I'm getting clean water. What's this all about? Curious mind, asking curious questions.
Yeah.
So fill stations, springs, and like I said, I work for a filtration company. Honestly, in my personal opinion, they are doable for finances, but really it's just being curious and being resourceful, because there's ways to access it. I would drive to the springs about twice a month. Spent like $20 on gas, and I had all the water in the world. It's probably about as much as I would spend to fill up my jug somewhere. And I believe it's better than a lot of fill stations. And I only say that because I've spoke to a couple water stores, and I wasn't like all that stoked on their filtration system with them filtering tap water. It's spring water, and it's somewhere where we have a huge less likeliness of contamination. I would drink spring water forever. That wasn't tested or anything, and people are like, oh my god, there's dead animals in it, dead deer, you died upstream. I'm like, that's better than drinking like loads of arsenic and whatever else is in your water. So and you'll probably survive and just be strong. just be curious, ask questions. There is affordable solutions. If this is something that you really want to pursue, don't get wrapped up in the trend. Be curious and be knowledgeable learn about what type of different filters there are and what you need for your water that you have. There's, RO systems, there's granular carbon, there's solid carbon, there's, I don't know what else. There's like a bunch of different weird stuff in it on Amazon. And they're like, this is a filter. So just be educated about what you're choosing if you go a filter route. And if you're going to get water somewhere, ask how it's filtered. So I wish it could be like a silver platter on a plate answer, but it's like,
Yeah.
kind of have to do some work about it and think about it. And that's also why I like to help people do it, because I'm highly interested in it. And so I have no problem if somebody's really interested in this and wants to figure out a way to get clean water, whether that's through my companies or through a different route. I'm happy to assist people in like looking up their tap water and educating and things like that. So that's what it's, yeah.
I love that. It's just like, I was sitting there, I was like, okay, a lot of us don't even know the questions to ask. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's kind of wild, is where it's like, I would like to do better for myself, but it's like, where do I start? What questions do I ask? Do I even know enough to ask the right questions? You know what I mean? I feel like that's just a whole, you gotta dive deep. Just one Google question and then go down the rabbit hole for yourself, I guess.
Yeah, so there's a lot of education out there, particularly a lot of me and my team. We post a lot of stuff educating about the different filter types and what there is. When it comes to water stores, if that's what you're doing, you just gotta be like, hey, what type of filter system is that? They're gonna tell you, you're gonna go home, you're gonna research it. You're gonna say, okay, is this gonna be good or you're gonna reach out to somebody that would happily research it for you, and you're gonna be like, okay, is this good for my water system? Like, is there a way I can improve this? Eventually, one day, there will be clean Kangen water stores everywhere for people to just go fill up. And within my company, we actually don't sell the water. It's within our company compliance. So right now, we have a well in Maui. We have a well in Syracuse, New York. We have a well in Santa Cruz, California. I'm working on developing a well here in Washington, basically where people can come fill up for a membership for a water bottle. So the water bottle is going to be a one-time membership fee for your water bottle. And you can fill up as much as you want for as long as you want. And there may be some different requirements. Blue Zone Waters down in Santa Cruz. She's an amazing woman. Opened up a clean, ionized Kangen water store. $25 for a membership for your bottle, lifetime. That's it, done. She has people fill up water. What she does require them to do is to come to 3 educational water classes a year, and that's it, to keep their membership with their water bottle. So we're looking at making systems like those more abundant, especially here in the United States for us, setting those up at different places that want to do it or opening up an own brick and mortar. So water stores are amazing and convenient. Just make sure they have good filter. If you want spring water, just make sure it's in a pristine location. I don't recommend going into, especially if you have tap water, going into Home Depot or anywhere and just buying a granular carbon filter that you have to change every 3 months. You're just going to waste your money. So find somebody that's already doing it and interested in it and have them help you, because there's plenty of water nerds everywhere.
Yeah, it kind of leads me to, it's funny where you're going at, because we're kind of hitting on tap water, and this question's kind of off the cuff here a little bit, but I did a little research, and according to the CDC, 9 out of 10 Americans get their tap water from a public water system. The utilities they provide this water are required to meet safety water standards set by the U.S., the EPA. Utility treat water to remove harmful germs and chemicals and meet standards. Every July, you can get that information from your public water system. That all being said, what can we as the general public, because I'm a very much proof is in the pudding kind of guy.
Yeah.
What tests can we run or could we buy? I know there's probably some tests at our local stores.
Yep.
And when we get these tests and use the water, I think most people are pretty hip to, okay, I need clean drinking water. But I think, and like you said earlier in the show, man, a lot of people don't understand how much water we're absorbing just through when we take a shower or brush our teeth, or, I mean, we're constantly using water. So what can we as the general public, what would you recommend for testing our water, and what should we be looking out for? And in conjunction with what you said last time, what filters or what cheap ways can we be like, okay, look, this is a problem. What solutions should I be looking at?
Okay. So testing and solutions. Luckily, if you are on tap water, most likely your test report is free on the internet and you don't have to pay for a test. Because if you want to test, quality tests have to be sent to a lab. Oftentimes they ask that the water is kept cold. I've seen tests range everywhere from $75 to $200 or more for a water test kit to be sent to your house to test your water. A lot of people that are on well water have to deal with this, especially if they own the property, because they are the municipal people. They have to treat, test, take care of their water, everything. But if you are tap water, if you are on city water, EWG most likely has a report, and they have it broke down to where you can put in your zip code and then it pops up a list of utilities in your area, and you pick whichever utility is on your bill, and you can go and see the contaminants that EWG, a health organization, a nonprofit health organization, deems are unsafe limits, and it has it written right there. So if you are public on the public utilities, easy peasy, don't have to pay for it. If you're on a well, it's a little bit of a different story. If you want to do your own test, great. There's a bunch of test kits. As far as like endorsing and recommending one, I would just say to make sure that it has a lab that it's being sent to, that it's not just like an instant response at home or something type of kit. You really want to go get tested for like bacteria, cysts, minerals, soluble stuff, like there's soluble iron and whatnot that most filters cannot get out. That happens a lot with people with well water. So luckily you may not have to pay for a test because good ones are not cheap. As far as solutions, it really depends on your water contamination. So that's the first step, right? Let's figure out what's in my water. And then go from there as to what filter would work best for you. So the most common filters that you're going to see in the store, probably on Amazon, Home Depot, wherever, are going to be activated granular carbon. And the key word here is that it's granular. It's like sand. So activated carbon is really, really, really good at absorbing contaminants, chemicals, all such sorts of nasty stuff. It's the charge. They just suck together. The issue with that and these is that it's granular. So when your water passes through it, it's not being forced through all of it. It's like a water flowing through sand. It's just going to push it to the side. You're not going to get full contact, like full filtration. A lot of the countertop pitchers are granular carbon. The ones you get at Costco or wherever, they're granular carbon. So your water is not necessarily being filtered effectively. It's not that the materials of the filter are not good. It's the way that they're formed are not being as effective as it could be. And then you're going to have reverse osmosis water. A lot of people have reverse osmosis systems on their house or are considering one because there's brands like Collagen or whatever come like set up a payment plan for you. It's like $500, but you pay it out through like the whole year or something, and they come and service it so often. It's like a whole house reverse osmosis system, which can be affordable if you can allocate different payments to it. But I do not ever recommend somebody using reverse osmosis system unless it was like a crisis like situation, for multiple reasons. Is that reverse osmosis waste so much water through all the different steps of like filtering that it goes through. For like every 1 gallon of water that's produced of reverse osmosis water, it wastes 5 to 7 gallons. I don't even know how it's possible, but This is what's happening with RO systems. And then I think it's pretty common understanding, or people are catching on, that reverse osmosis system, because it's completely stripped of everything. So reverse osmosis goes through like a sediment filter, which is like any large particulates, a certain micron or whatever. And then it goes into a solid carbon block. And the company that I endorse and work with does solid carbon block technology. That's what we do. We are the pioneers of solid carbon block. Right after the sediment, solid carbon block, then you have I think it's the RO membrane. And that's where it's going to get rid of any cysts or like microorganisms, minerals, heavy metals, any dissolved salts, any dissolved soluble anything. It just strips it all away. So yes, they are affordable, but because they're essentially completely dead, plain water, which we as humans have never, ever, ever drank in our life. Any water we've ever drank since we've been on this earth has been of minerals and bacteria and salts and things in it. That's how our body is like sustained. We can't drink like literally plain water and be sustained. So it will actually start pulling minerals and nutrients out of your body, and it can cause all sorts of deficiencies. So I see a lot of people go that way with RO. I think it would be totally fine. Like, yeah, I'll run my laundry with some RO system if I'm concerned about my clothes. Some people really are, and they want clean, like it completely clean water in every aspect of the house. I'm not necessarily too much worried about it, but I don't recommend RO systems, but they are great for emergency, and because they're affordable, people are leaning towards them. I will say a lot of reverse osmosis systems they can add on like UV tanks, which also kill bacteria and cysts. Those are what the UV is for microorganisms, like living waterborne pathogens and stuff. But a lot of them have mineral additive tanks to them to re-add minerals back into it, because people are becoming aware this is not just pseudoscience, this is real life, like it's doing these things to our body. So my question there would be, if you have an OR system and you can add a mineral tank to it, what are the minerals you're adding, right? Okay, so because you need certain minerals within your body, so you just want to make sure those are the right minerals, or if you're able to get that blend to put back into your water. But again, it wastes so much water, and it particularly RO water does not partner with ionizers, because to make electrolyzed reduced water, hydrogen rich water, you have to have minerals in the water. So you can't make antioxidant rich water with reverse osmosis water. So that's another reason why I don't lean that way, is the human impact, the waste, and then it not being effective for making me my living water. So
Human impact and waste seem to go hand in hand, does it not?
yeah.
Yeah, it does. Man.
Yeah. Okay. And then I want to touch on the so we did the granular carbon. It's great. It's just not as effective as we want it to be, which is really surprising to me, because big companies like Brita and whatnot, they should just be able to drop a couple of dollars into getting some solid carbon block and shooting their sales through the roof to be like, oh no, now we're actually verified, and this is the technology we use, and it's patented and verified. Instead of like, it's granular carbon, it's cutting chlorine taste. Like, come on, you guys got the money, let's upgrade.
Better here. Let's what are you really in it for? Let's talk about it.
Okay. So one filter that I really, really love and I work with is the solid carbon block. So
right
this is different. This is the filter on the outside, right? And it would be like a circle, but they cut it in half so I could use this to show people. So essentially the water comes in, it sits in a stainless steel housing, and the water comes in and it's powered through and pushed out the top into my ionizer, or into it has a little faucet you could put on it. You could install it under the sink. But what's important is the solid carbon block. So we talked about the granular carbon and how it kind of just gets pushed to the side when water's flowing through it. Well, this carbon block is compressed so hard and so tightly that only the micron of smoke can get through it. So the micron of smoke is 2 times smaller than the width of like one strand of your hair. So it's incredibly, incredibly tiny. And there's only so many contaminants or minerals or things in water that are that small. And they tend to often be like soluble iron, which doesn't happen that often. But again, that's why it's good to test and know. That's going to happen more with like well water in the mountains, is to have those crazy soluble metals in your water. So it's so compact, it only lets the micron of smoke through, 2 times smaller than your hair. And what this technology, what they patented it to, like the branding for what it does, is adsorption. Opposed to absorption, it's adsorption with a D, because the activated carbon attracts all of the contaminants in there, and it only lets minerals through. Because minerals are dissolved in water. So it's going to let the calcium and the magnesium and all the things through the water through. And so that's what you want when you're looking for a filter, something that has a solid carbon block. I was just talking to my mom about her fridge filter, And she was like, I want to know if it's good. Like, we're obsessed with using a fish filter. And I looked it up, and surprisingly, it is a NSF certified solid carbon block filter.
Right
I
on.
don't know how much her cartridge is. I think she has like a GE fridge or something, General Electric. But I was surprised by that. So really just a little bit of due diligence. My system that I use, this specific filter, it takes on 600 gallons before it needs to be changed. So I think at 2 gallons a day of drinking water, which is a decent amount. It's generally for a family and not an individual. You're going to last anywhere from 7 to 9 months with one filter.
Okay.
So the system, the one buying the housing in the system for this product, for this filter specifically, is like $800 after tax and everything. And then the filter changes are about $100, and you're going to be doing that depending on how you use your water. So I use my clean water for a lot of stuff, so I go through my filter a little bit more because I have it going into my ionizer where I make soap and sanitizer and all sorts of things and water my plants with it, and I have animals and a family of 4 and just like a lot going on. So I replaced mine after 4 months, and really, you know, we were talking about affordable solutions. I do believe that there is probably more affordable ones out there, like my mom's fridge one. But for the system and setup that I have with my family, I could swing about anywhere from $200 to $300 a year for filter change for to have clean water.
Yeah.
So this technology was patented by Multipure. Multipure is a global company. They're under different names in different parts of the world, in different countries. And so this solid carbon block technology that they invented and patented, they use in the military. They use it, they have this like little drop bucket that sits in there, and they kind of just siphon the water through it. And so what we really like about these systems and the solid carbon block is all that it really takes is a little bit of water pressure. There's no like electricity required. As long as you can get the water pressurized in here, you can pump it out through there. This is going to remove everything from chlorine and chloramamine. It's going to remove all of the crazy metals like arsenic, chloroform, the lead, the nitrate, the nitrites, all the crazy THC, whatever stuff I can't even understand, the merging compounds, PFAs, forever chemicals. So that's a huge, huge thing that apparently everybody's really, really into now, which is important. I'm glad that people are becoming aware of this. Granular carbon is not going to get out your PFAs, your forever chemicals, your microplastics. Solid carbon block will. So if that's something of your interest, definitely make sure you're looking for solid carbon block. I recommend solid carbon block for whatever RO's second state of its system uses a solid carbon block. It uses sediment, then solid carbon, then the RO membrane that strips it. So if they just got rid of, in my personal opinion, the RO membrane and kept it with a sediment in a carbon block, they would be winning.
Right.
Personally, and then the emerging contaminants. So the reason I say solid carbon block, but I say solid carbon block that is NSF certified. So NSF is the National Sanitation Foundation, and they are a third-party organization that certifies all sorts of different things globally. They certify things to ensure the safety of like public health and food and water and just the touching and all that stuff. So this filter specifically with Multipure is certified NSF at the higher standard. So NSF has 3 different categories of certification, and if a filter filters something in that category, it can be certified that. Well, this company specifically, Multipure, they are certified to filter everything that's under that NSF certification, not just like 1 or 2 things. This is like the number 1 brand in the NSF certification, holds every single contaminant certification that they have so far. And a huge thing that is happening now is that the whole fluoride thing is coming out and people are freaking out. So the EPA doesn't, it's just a fun fact, I guess, a little tangent. The EPA doesn't really have they have a regulation on fluoride, but they don't have like a certification to say that a filter filters fluoride. The only certification for it through NSF, which is our go-to when we're looking for integrity, is NSF, is for reverse osmosis systems. It's the only one that has for fluoride. So fluoride has multiple different isotopes, kind of like lead, kind of like arsenic. There's like 2 different compound styles of it in our water. So one filter can do one and not the other. Well, this multi-pure will not say that it filters out fluoride, but they've been tested to filter out both types of fluoride that are in our water. And the reason they won't say it is because the company runs with integrity, where they're not going to say they do something if they can't prove it. And they prove it through a organization where they get their certification. So really find something that's solid carbon block. If it's NF certified, fantastic. That's a little bit of a rabbit hole. Again, love to help anybody, like just hundreds of people out there really interested in knowing that what they have is actually working and doing its job and they're not just wasting their money. And once you know where to look, it's pretty easy. But I did want to say, like, be a skeptic, like you don't have to believe me over here saying, because I work for a company and this and that. I did my own research before I, aligned with 2 owned companies and had my own thoughts. So I do recommend that to everybody. Solid carbon block, NF certified, and we can definitely find a solution.
Awesome. Man, you're just killing it with the water. She's a water mama for a reason, folks. We see it. It's so fun. And I love learning more from you, because I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, I got a lot more to think about than I already think about, but it's for a good reason, especially because, you want to like start bringing in babies and having family and stuff like that. It's crazy. Okay, anyway. That's my personal reason. Anyway, Lloyd, how are we doing over there?
I got 2 things, and then I just want to this one thing real quick. I got my information from water.org/our impact/water crisis. And I quote, "The power of water. Water connects every aspect of life. Today, 2.2 billion people, 1 in 4, lack access to safe water, and 3.5 billion people, 2 out of 5, lacks access to a safe toilet." Also, in a lot of countries, water is a woman's crisis, as the women are forced to walk very far to retrieve somewhat, well, the only water they have access to. I won't even call it drinkable, but information. Before having you back on as our guest, just doing our due diligence, trying to find out some facts, and I found this to be, I don't know, man, to me, appalling as probably how are we in 2024? Do we have billion? I'm not talking millions. I'm not even talking billions of people that don't have clean water or access to water or safe toilets. And with the spread of disease that goes along with that. Just wanted to get your opinion on that particular stat, Taurin. Just that it was just a little thing a little tidbit, and just wanted to get, because I don't think a lot of people that are going to be watching the show, first off, understand what the importance of clean water is, let alone how lucky we are, and blessed we are to have it come out of our sinks. You know what I mean? So like,
seriously.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's just I learned this stat, and I know it wasn't a question that necessarily, but
I guess
yeah, please.
Please, we're very much so like, why? Why is this happening?
Yeah.
This could take a spiritual turn.
I know. Trust.
Let's go, Shay. I just watched I lived in California for 10 years before I relocated back to Washington last October. And California is experiencing severe desertification, on fire like crazy, 400,000 acres, like drought, landslides, bad things happening, coastal or not. And so I started to learn about how our water works, because in California you have Mount Shasta, you have all the Oregon mountains, you have Tahoe, you have all of these places that are getting like mass amounts of snow and are like beautiful rivers down there. And like, where is our water going? Why is the land so desolate? Why is it so dry? And I lived in the Sacramento Valley, where there's a lot of farming. And so this is just like a local, like, United States example of how precious it is to have water, and like how honestly like corrupt the system and things are, as far as like it goes where the money goes. So there's a whole political thing that happened in California, obviously, as it was being built, about where we're going to direct this water for agriculture. So that's a lot of the water from Mount Shasta and Tahoe and up in the Sierras right there are channeled all the way down to LA, east of LA, like high desert, a lot where there's a lot of orchards. There's a lot of agriculture down there. And I was watching a documentary on this about the politics of it and the water wars and who was involved and things. And it was showcasing the people in the town at one point that don't even have running water to their home. Yet they live in America and they're in California and they're around acres and acres and acres of thriving orchards. So like, and you know what? And they talked to a couple people that actually had water going to their house. Like, times a few people, and the grandma was like, "No, we don't drink, touch, or do anything with that water. We're not touching it. Like it's ran through the system of its agriculture there and has had probably plenty amounts of contaminants and like actual carcinogenics and neurotoxins and things that can hurt children in the womb, like glyphosate and these things in the water, so they won't even touch it." Believe like we are so blessed again to have water coming from our sinks. Again, people are becoming aware that even though it's coming out of our sinks, it's not necessarily good to consume. Even people in situations like that where nobody in town has water, but they have water, but yet nobody will touch it. So it's like, and that goes deep as far as like the way our governments and systems are running and really what's important to them and money and not actually per impact.
That gave me some Aaron Brockovich vibes right there. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, you were talking about that and I was like, yeah, you know what I mean? Between that, Flint, Michigan, you know what I mean?
Yeah. You know, and as far as other countries go, you know, that's a toss-up between me and how I feel about that. Some people really want to go and exercise and implement schools or facilities, water stuff, whatever, and that's great. And I fully support that. But also another at my heart and core is like, leave Indigenous people alone. Leave tribes alone. If they need help, they'll get it. Like, we're here for them, but like, we don't need to like go in and be like, here's a water system, here's all clean water system. So that's just a whole nother like my own, like, I don't want to encroach my culture, my life, my beliefs. But again, I do feel for there's children that are, you know, dehydrated to death and starving to death in this world, and that's an unfortunate reality. So, those are the larger powers that be, and it kind of has to do with like how I feel with everything that's going on right now, with what politics are saying they're going to do to our food system and that they're going to do to our water system. Is like, when you talk about fixing things like this and getting those people in Southern Eastern California clean water, you're talking about going against a broad group of individuals that have power and money. And they don't just let you, like, they're not just going to let you take something from them. Because if you're essentially giving people something that's going to make them better and not have to rely on them and suffer, you're taking something from them. And so what are you giving back to them to like make this trade-off, to pull the contaminants out of our water? Because they're not just going to say, oh, I own stock and all these things and this chemical that is used in agriculture, and yeah, I'll just stop putting it in there and stop making billions of years. Sure. It's like, no, we have to do a trade here. Like, so really it's that whole just idea that people are starving, people are dehydrated, people are dealing with contaminated water is a huge thing. If you want to talk about like, why are the solutions or whatever, I really just try to focus on, because it can be overwhelming as a person that wants to like steward and people. So I just try to focus on, you know, what I can do to spread education and what I can offer. That's definitely in the heart and mind of mine and my whole team's, is getting this water, getting clean water, getting living water to all people, no matter their situation, no matter their financial situation, anything. So that's definitely happening in the vision. I try not to dwell too much on why it's happening or how, because I know just like,
and more focused on finding solutions or options. It does get heavy. It definitely does. And it's like, especially when you have like big hearts and large spirits and you're just like, man, like the world doesn't have to be like this. And when you just know that it doesn't have to be, and it's being created this way in a very malicious intent, it's like, it's just heartbreaking. And it's you just want to do more, which is another reason why we want
to be able to have guests like you and be able to share things with people, to be able to just like kind of steward education in a way that's like helpful. And like I said, some people don't even know the questions to ask because we're provided or fed all of this misinformation, or, you know, hey, I'm giving this to you. You don't have to work for it. So, and I promise it's in your best interest. Like a lot of people aren't being like, I mean, now they're starting to wake up more to it. You know what I mean? But for a long time, they're like, oh my gosh, like this is just innovative. You know, my government wouldn't hurt me, or not even just the government, but, you know, people thinking that people have good intentions right off the bat. So it's just, it's unfortunate that we have to kind of like watch ourselves all the time. But I'm glad that we have people like ourselves and many of the people that we know that are going out here and being like, hey, like we want to help. We see what's going on, you know? So.
Yeah, like we said in the beginning, it's the duality that you cannot get rid of. Everybody's on their own journey and their own path, and they're right where they need to be, and so are you. And so just keep doing your thing. And I feel incredibly privileged to even help people get clean water and get living water and spread this knowledge. And so I'll continue to, you know, put the energy in the direction of the wholeness.
Yes, we love you and love what you're doing. Thank you so much. Well, Lloyd, do you have any wrap-up questions? Any extra funsies or anything?
Yeah, man. If you just thank you so much for coming on with us again, Taurin. I mean,
Yeah.
always a pleasure to learn. I think it's something that most people go, well, duh, you know what I mean? But everybody knows we need water and we drink water and it's part of our lives. But I don't think we really stop for a moment and think, hey, man, what am I putting in? Is this good for me? You know, so thank you for that. But no, man, I think it would be cool if you could just give us if you could give us one piece of advice going forward, like for us and our viewers, what can we do immediately, like just to, you know, maybe make our lives a little bit better with our quality of water? Like what would be like one first step, whether that's going to a website to educate ourselves, maybe pursuing a water filter, looking for advocacy. If anybody's looking to take that step, what would you recommend? What would be the first step?
I feel like you have like 3 steps to recommend. First step would be to ask questions. Get real curious. Get comfortable asking questions, because that's the only way you're going to find out. I mean, so you have to ask yourself these questions and ask other people these questions and do your research and come up with your own belief and understanding. And I think it's fun. I like doing that. Second step, if you're, yeah, exactly. If you've asked questions and you've learned some things and now you want to implement or, you know, pursue ideas, just get in touch with somebody. Get in touch with me, get in touch with some of my team, get in touch with, you know, your local water store. Ask them about filtration, see what they know. If you want to look at test stuff and you have tap water, go to EWG tap water database and you just throw in your zip code and it'll give you your utility right there. Once you start asking questions and you're curious and ready to implement, there's resources for you. I would just say make sure to have your own thoughts and opinions about it and what serves you and your family best, and then seek help because there's plenty out there. Yeah.
Right on, man. That was great.
Well, right on with that. Do you want to go ahead and give yourself a little shout out, say where we can find you, and if people do want to reach out and have more questions, what are the deets? Please give them to us.
Yeah, definitely. I am on Instagram as Mystic Water Mama. I am also on Facebook as Taurin McBride. That should be in the details somewhere because my name's weird to spell. Yeah, if you have any questions or you want to know more about water, or if you want help asking questions and doing some research, even if you're not interested in implementing or taking any action at all, we can definitely get in contact. I would just say just message me or something. I'd be happy to help anybody figure out what's the best, most affordable option, like what serves their family right now in this time. So yeah, Facebook, Taurin McBride, Instagram, Mystic Water Mama, and that's it.
Cool beans. Well, we will make sure to leave your information in the description box or in our pinned post, and we'll just make sure you're accessible. And I just really, really appreciate you coming on again. I am excited to learn all this information.
Thanks, Taurin.
I mean, I'll have you 1 million times, girl. I don't, you know, whatever. But anyway, it has been so much fun. Thank you so much. And I am super excited to get curious with both of you. And I will talk to you soon.
Bye bye,
Thank
y'all.
you guys.
Bye.